Before I begin this week's chapter reaction, I would like to remind any of you that don't already know that Oda announced the other day that he's going to be taking 4 chapters off, aka 5 weeks off, starting now, in order to get surgery done for his astigmatism. It's been affecting his eyesight, and hopefully, can all agree that probably means that when he comes back, his drawing is going to be a much better quality. But what's important is his health. And the best part of all is that after the surgery, he's going to have laser vision, according to him. So that's just cool. So, about this week's chapter 1086. Well, before we get to the title, there's a new color spread. No rain, no rainbow, and it's cute. Chopper and the kitty crossing the reflection of a rainbow they see in a puddle. Cover request by Crazy Downey. So this week's chapter is called The Five Elder Planets. The Fallout from the Reverie. This chapter better be good if he was saving his surgery for after it. So everything that's going to come after the surgery is going to be probably 10 times crazier. But this is the final chapter before his break, so it's going to be good. And so the curtains drew closed on the reverie before the news of King Cobra's murder came to light. This is Princess Vivi of Alabasta. Hasn't anyone seen her? Aw, poor Igaram. Where is the king? Has his condition worsened? Oh my goodness, Shaka and Pell. They don't know what happened just yet. All the while, a number of stowaways held their breath as they attempted to escape on various royal vessels. A number of stowaways. So just like everyone predicted since last week, the most likely thing in this chapter is the missing link of how Wapol and Vivi made it to where we know they ended up with Morgans. Big news, Morgans. Hey, whose ship is this? This Aegis Kingdom. The Aegis Kingdoms. Aegis. We're on Aegis's ship, Morgans. So he contacted him via transponder snail, which we already got that in a very previous chapter when they got a call from Wapol saying that he wants to leak information. So it's all coming together. Gotcha. We'll fly our headquarters over and pretend to look for a scoop. Use that chance to hop aboard and don't get yourselves caught before then. I owe you one. You got that right. A king somehow became the subject of a manhunt. This is big news. I love Morgan and his part of the story. He's just so important to the media. I can't wait to hear all about it. So what exactly did you see in there, Wapol? Like I tell you, leave me alone and go back to your own ship. I can't. CP0 is no joke. Now that they're after me, it won't matter how much everyone tries to help. Those agents won't rest till I'm back in their custody. Now let me borrow your transponder snail. I need to talk to my father as soon as possible. He's a total worrywart. Anything but that. Get lost already. What's wrong with you? Okay, so not only does the Alabasta guards not know at this very moment yet that Cobra's dead, Vivi doesn't know either. And we do know that a month later, she is already past the point of crying about it. So she's probably spent a few days or weeks crying, but we haven't gotten there yet. Meanwhile, CP0 agent shows a picture of Vivi to... Is that King Stelly? His wife doesn't look happy. Meanwhile, Spandam and another agent is also with a picture of Sabo. So everyone is really, really, really on guard. Meanwhile, the Tahina Kingdom ship, hatch section. Bonnie is hungry. She's always hungry, poor girl. And the Lulusha Kingdom ship, bilge section, it looks like Sabo is not looking too great, but we already know what happens to them. She goes to Egghead, somehow ends up in the ocean, and he goes to Lulusha. If I can just make it to Lulusha, I know I can figure something out. I'm counting on you, Sabo-kun. You must live on. Okay, so we already know how... He already ended up with the Lulusha survivors in Kamabaka. And he didn't look too bad for where there. So I guess this is, the period in time in which he recovers from those very, very, very serious looking injuries. It didn't take long for the two key stories to spread across the globe. The murder of King Cobra of Alabasta and the disappearance of his daughter, Princess Vivi. And everyone's leaving Redport at once. The Holy Land of Marijua. The man they call Sabo. He seems to have a checkered fate. How else can you account for him constantly being surrounded by those who bear the letter D? That's right. I was hoping we would be able to see to the egghead issue now, but it seems that dealing with this complication will have to take priority. Yes, great Emu. Pangea Castle, Flower Room. The time has come to put Vegapunk's invention to the test. Use the Mother Flame. Okay, so lots of stuff that I did not expect. New information, which we should expect. The Mother Flame. Use the Mother Flame. Oh, is this what destroys Lulusha? It has a name? Is it an ancient weapon? Well, let's find out. It is true, we haven't had the chance to try it out before now, so there is no way to ascertain its effectiveness yet. Depending on how well this experiment goes, Egghead may reconsider its response. I think a forest area would be a more suitable testing ground than a sea-based target. Lulusha Kingdom. Quite a lot of people live there. That is of no consequence. Understood. The world moves at the will of the Creator. What is the treason for Lulusha's selection? Its close proximity. It shall be as you say. Oh no! He's gonna name all the 5 planets! And that's why it's called the 5 Elder Planets, because like we know from translation and predictions from weeks ago, the 5 Elder Stars are actually the 5 Elder Planets, because in Japanese, star and planet were visually indiscernible, and therefore verbally indiscernible. Depending on context, they are discernible. But yeah, I'm not gonna scroll to read it just yet. So they chose Lulusha just because out of all of the rebelling kingdoms, out of the 8, it was the closest one. The Mother Flame, if that's the thing that destroys Lulusha based on what they're showing, that they're saying it's an experiment and it's an invention by Vegapunk. So it's not an ancient weapon. What if the ancient weapons aren't in the government's hands? What if all 3 of them will be on the good side in the end game, and the Mother Flame is a Vegapunk invention, and that's what destroys Lulusha? Makes sense with all of the different Vegapunk satellites there are. It's not too surprising that at least some of them were willing to build a Death Star. Okay, what's the reason for Lulusha's selection? Its close proximity. It shall be as you say. Okay, first I'm going to read the dialogue, and then I'm going to read their names. I will make necessary preparations. I humbly request your patience in the meantime. Lulusha citizens have shown sparks of rebellion recently. We may be able to make an example out of them. If we could one day use this power freely, we could instantly snuff out any protracted conflict. Okay, so this confirms that because it's new and experimental, they are not yet ready to use it freely. And Lulusha is literally guinea pig number 1, and it's called the Mother Flame. 5 Elder Planets. Defense, Science, Warrior God, St. J. Garcia Saturn. 5 Elder Planets. Environmental, Warrior God, St. Marcus Mars. 5 Elder Planets. Justice, Warrior God, St. Topaman Valkyrie. 5 Elder Planets. Finance, Warrior God, St. Ethan Baron V. Nusjuro. 5 Elder Planets. Agriculture, Warrior God, Saint Shepherd Jew Peter. Ah, I see. Like, halfway through I was like, wait, these don't sound all like planets, but... And I like what Oda's doing here. Jew Peter isn't too far a stretch from Jupiter. But it's also including Peter, a Christian saint. And they're all 5 of them are saints. So we have J. Garcia Saturn, Marcus Mars, and Marcus is a very traditional Roman-sounding name from the Roman Empire. Shepherd Jupiter, which is both a Jupiter reference and a Peter, St. Peter reference. The Gandhi one is Venus, the one with the sword, because his name is St. Ethan Baron V. Nusjuro. And that only leaves Mercury. And his name is Topman Valkyrie. Okay, so we have the names of all 5 elders. That is huge. It is very huge. I can't wait to make the thumbnail for this video. Okay, next panel. One more thing. Of course. Retrieve Vivi. As you wish. Interesting. So Vivi's wanted, most likely alive. Meanwhile, The kingdom of Tahine and the Aegis kingdom are both rebelling. What? So they're part of the 8? Or maybe separate? No. No. Okay. Between the disbanding of the 7 warlords and the uprisings in government-affiliated nations, the Navy has their hands full. However, their military power had already gone in a new direction. Deploy the Seraphim. Crocodile was spotted on Empty Bluffs Island. Okay. Okay. Oh. Okay, so the reason I'm overreacting is because everyone was insisting for months now, ever since the Seraphim were introduced, that the Seraphim are more than just the 4 warlords we've met. Other people were agreeing that there should be 7. I was under the impression that no, if they were 7, they would have shown it by now because they're expensive to make, etc., etc. From my point of view, not only are those 3 the wild cards out of the original 7, these 3, Crocodile was well behaved, but he was beaten by Luffy because he was secretly plotting. Doflamingo, same thing, beaten by Luffy, secretly plotting, not even secret. And Moria was also beaten by Luffy, and he was secretly plotting. So I thought that Oda was under some sort of plan, like saying, hey, look, these 4 are the only Seraphim made for various reasons. They're expensive to make, and from the Navy's point of view, in story, in universe, I thought that they only made those 4 because they were the safest to control. But now I see that he's introducing, literally, S Flamingo, S Crocodile, and people are saying that Moria is S Bat, when his name's literally Gecko Moria. He has to be S Gecko. I do not think there is a Buggy Seraphim. I do not think there is a Weevil Seraphim, and I do not think that there is a Law Seraphim. There is no reason to be. The original 7, they were warlords for quite a number of time. I do not think there's a Blackbeard Seraphim. It's just the original 7, and I really hope I'm right. Because, you gotta get their blood, and when would they have gotten a chance to get the blood of the more recent ones, the temporary ones, the ones that, they abolished it so quickly. But this is insane. What a reveal. Moria looks just like his younger self. Doflamingo looks just like his younger self. Crocodile looks just like his younger self, but he's the only one out of the 3 who's not smiling. And that makes me excited because I hope we find out Crocodile's secret. And I wonder if Crocodile will lose to these 3 if they're sending all 3 to the same place. Even with Mihawk. The second we docked at Leloucha, the people arrested King Seki and Princess Komain. They were just waiting to ambush the royals. Since I was a stowaway, they welcomed me with open arms. That's when I saw the papers and found out that they pinned King Cobra's murder on me. Unsurprisingly, the people there considered me a hero. I wanted to tell them the truth, but when I saw how that lie fanned the flames of rebellion within them, the words died in my mouth. Betty and the others had already inspired a lot of them, and I ended up bringing many of those hopeful recruits back with me. I couldn't make direct contact without an encryption snail. So I rerouted my call through the island while we were setting sail. I knew the government would intercept the signal, but doing it like that was sure to fool them into thinking I was still on Leloucha. Okay, he's VPNing them. However, I was just within range, having already set out to sea with our new enlistees. So the annihilation of Leloucha really did happen during that call. Yeah, everyone on board was hysterical. A lot of them had family on the island. Of course, he didn't evacuate the whole island. He just evacuated the rebels. Those people are all dead. They saw their country obliterated right in front of their eyes. Despicable. How in the world did they do it? An enormous shadow seemed to engulf the sky above us, and the next moment, everything was gone. An enormous shadow? Oh? Does Dragon know something? There's no way it was caused by a living thing or some natural disaster. Something pitch black was flying above the clouds. I really hope this is the thing that Bage's crew crashed into many, many chapters ago, because that thing looked like a planet. It has to be that. Chekhov's gun. Oda would not just tease something if he's not going to use it later, if it's that crazy. As crazy as a giant floating object. Sabo, earlier you said they used the name Emu. Ooh. Right. This may be a little out there, but when the world we know today was created 800 years ago, one of the first 20 sovereigns was Saint Imu of House Nerona. Okay, so even if this is not the same individual, because it could be a descendant, we have confirmation that one of the first 20 was Nerona Imu. I don't get any references. I'm not a huge researcher of nomenclature unless I already know it, and I just happen to not know it. Now look at this. Since we know an ability granting eternal youth is said to exist, that must mean someone has used it before. Thank you, Ivanka. Word for word, my theory. Since we know an ability granting eternal youth is said to exist, that must mean someone has used it before. If it was never used, it wouldn't be a rumor. Thank you, Doflamingo. Thank you, Trafalgar Law. Which means there is a person out there that doesn't need to worry about that. Exactly my theory. Man, Oda made it too obvious. I shouldn't be praising too hard myself. He made it obvious. But in this case, come on. There is at least one person who was granted eternal youth via the Ope Ope no Mi. So, you think the one I saw is... It could be a coincidence. Maybe they just share the same name, but it's coming together. Could anyone else but a founder command the 5 elder planets, the highest of world nobles? The celestial dragons fancy themselves as the descendants of the gods after all. One more thing. Assuming the object you saw above the clouds was a weapon made by the government, then the only one capable of creating such a thing could be Vegapunk. Points finger at Dragon. Hold it, Eva. Vegapunk would never intentionally design a dedicated killing machine. I know. So what if it was an ancient weapon? Man, we got a theorist on our hands. Assuming Imu has been living since ancient times, there's a connection. Okay, so now we're theorizing that it is one of the 3 ancient weapons. But we already know from... They don't know, it's irony. Dramatic irony. They don't know, but we know that it was a Vegapunk invention. Maybe based on an ancient weapon. Maybe it's a recreated ancient weapon, just like how Frankie had the blueprints for the ancient Pluton, and we know ancient Pluton is under Wano, but the blueprints, well, they were in anyone's hands. They could have made another one, in theory. Robin told us that the ancient weapons do in fact exist, but if this person had such a weapon, why wait till now to use it? Present day, okay, so flashback over. Present day, the Holy Land of Marijua. A celestial dragon has just been sentenced to death? Mjosgard. I'm assuming it's Mjosgard. Our food supply is gone, eh? We have no bread. All we have is cake, eh? Funny. The reference to that quote, which isn't even a real quote, but, you know. We have no bread. Let them eat cake. Fitting. However, this information will never be reported to the outside world. Makes sense. Assuming it's Mjosgard that was sentenced to death. For treason, most likely. The judge was the former king of the land known as God Valley. He currently serves as the supreme commander of God's Knights. His name is Saint Figurland Garling. The former king of the land known as God Valley. He currently serves as the supreme commander of God's Knights, and his beard and hair is shaped like a crescent moon. So, connecting Film Red lore into this, the 5 elders assumed that Uta was a Figurland, and this was only implied because she was Shanks' stepdaughter. They thought that she was his actual daughter, making her an actual Figurland. Adopted or not, this implies that Shanks is a Figurland. And since Film Red information also confirmed that Roger found Shanks as a baby in a chest right after God Valley, then the number one theory on the internet is virtually confirmed that Shanks is a celestial dragon and that he is more than likely a son or grandson or some sort of relative of Figurland Garling. The man he sentenced to execution? None other than the one who chose to defend Fishman, Saint Don Quixote Mjosgard. Anyone who protects scum is lower than the scum they protect. A man who can even judge the celestial dragons. He might already be dead, but he is literally crucified, which in One Piece happens a lot. And he has some pretty neat sunglasses. He looks like he could be one of the 5 elders if he wanted to be. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you so much. Please consider liking, subscribing, sharing with a friend. And I will see you next time.